Hey, hey, hey. Time for another out-of-this-world story from rSpace. Some people measure love in whispered promises and stolen glances. Others, in bank statements and designer handbags. Does true love come with a price tag? Let's dive into that today on rSpace. Wife cheated and said affair partner was more successful. 6 years later, she's homeless and desperate while I'm thriving. Sorry it's a long one. I, 41 male, divorced my wife, Haley, 39 female, after 6 years of marriage. She cheated on me without any remorse and I divorced her without any second thought. I was a tech guy, worked for one of the most prestigious companies in Silicon Valley. Fat paycheck, luxurious life, exotic vacations. From outside, it looked like the perfect life one could lead, but from the inside, it felt hollow. 10 years of grinding, chasing deadlines, and cashing in fat paychecks, still purposeless. The kind of emptiness that money couldn't fill. For years, I had toyed with the idea of breaking free, of building something of my own. A startup, an app, something meaningful. I finally got the courage to bring it up with Haley. She listened, but I could tell she was skeptical. She asked all the practical questions. What about the bills? What if it fails? Why throw away stability? I didn't have perfect answers, but I knew I couldn't keep living like a well-paid robot. Every time I brought this up, she hit me with reality and deterred me from taking the risk. I won't blame her at this point. Any sane person would question my decision. I had no concrete plan, just a zeal for building my own product. I assured her I had enough savings to pay my share of the bills and she could take care of hers. She wasn't on board and worried about downgrading our lifestyle and ruin the reputation we had made for ourselves. We were a member of a country club, hang out with elites. She wore only top-end brands. Obviously, we couldn't maintain that lifestyle without my job. Honestly speaking, I was never keen on this lifestyle. Before she came into my life, I led a very simple life despite my high salary. I was okay to sacrifice it for my real dreams, but she wasn't in it for a compromise and suggested I work on my business on the side. And when it looked promising, I quit my job. Sounds logical, right, but it was not practical at all. The company I worked for had a cutthroat competition. I had to put in 10 to 12 hours a day easily, and after that mental load, it was impossible to work on anything else. I stalled for 2 more years, burdened by my own fears and her doubts. But then, one day, I quit, just like that. She obviously freaked out, but this time, I was so sure about what I wanted from my life. I had a basic blueprint of what I wanted to create and nothing else. I quit parties and vacations, just paid my share of the bills and buried myself in my venture. Seeing my grit, she tried to play the part of a supportive wife. She didn't want to miss out on getting a share of my success. Encouraging words, pats on the back, and even the occasional, "I believe in you," came flowing in. But as the months rolled on and the income didn't, that support started to crumble. She even started saying, "Give 6 more months and if it doesn't fly, go back to work." I never paid attention to her advice. I knew I was on the right track, and even if it takes time, I'll wait. We didn't go bankrupt or something. I had the savings to last at least 5 years if I lived frugally. The house and car mortgage was paid. My credit card was paid. It was just food and utilities. Besides, she worked too. If not mine, she could pay for her share easily. Basic need wasn't her concern. What really fueled her resentment, though, was the loss of the lavish lifestyle I had given her. We traveled first class for vacations, spent weeks in the Bahamas at luxury resorts, and dined in Michelin-starred restaurants just because we could. Designer bags, jewelry, high-end shopping sprees, she had it all. She never had to worry about the price because, as long as I was working, money was no object. But when I quit, that world came crashing down, and she despised me for it. She didn't make enough to continue with that life. She made less than half of what I made, or even less. The fight started small. Snide comments about how I had all the time in the world while she had to carry the burden. By the way, no one asked her to lift the burden. She was doing it to put up a face. I wanted to cancel all the club and hotel memberships, but she renewed them. She was too embarrassed to cut down the lifestyle that she continued living the former life, but this time at her own expense, and she wasn't liking it. Then started subtle digs about how she was the only one with a real job now. Then came the frustration, the resentment. One evening, she wanted me to join her to one of the useless parties. I refused. When she came back and saw me working late again, she snapped. "I didn't sign up to be the sole breadwinner. You said it would be temporary." That was the first major and ugly fight. And from there was no going back. It only became worse. She'd complain about how we had to cancel our annual ski trip to Aspen, how she couldn't shop the way she used to. "You expect me to go from Chanel to discount stores?" Every bill we had to split became a battleground. If I suggested cutting back on unnecessary expenses, she'd roll her eyes. "Maybe if you had a paycheck, we wouldn't have to cut back." And, "I didn't marry a broke man." I tried to keep my head down, to push forward, to ignore the negativity, but she wasn't making it easy. Her fights turned meaner and sharper, like she was looking for a reason to hate me. She started berating me in front of friends, subtly at first, little jokes about how I was finding myself while she was working overtime. Then, outright contempt. Some nights she wouldn't even come home, claiming work ran late. When she did, she barely spoke. If I tried to hold her, she'd stiffen. If I kissed her, she'd turn her cheek. I started sensing that she was not ready to walk with me through the dark, and I'd have to navigate alone, but I was ready to pay the price for my goals. It was on New Year's Eve. We were invited to one such huge New Year's bash. I had a meeting with a prospective investor that upcoming week and a lot to wrap up, so I suggested we attend a house party instead, which would be easier on the pocket and also save time and energy, but she was in no mood for a bargain. She asserted she's going to attend it whether I like it or not. I said, cool, you can go. This discussion happened before Christmas, and we ended up not talking even on Christmas. She wasn't even home, just left a note. We'll be at Aunt's. On New Year's Eve, she got dressed up and left by the afternoon. By 9 or 10, loneliness started crawling inside me, and I felt bad about leaving her alone during the holidays. I got ready and drove to the party. I called her on the way, but her phone was switched off, or maybe in a low coverage zone. Luckily, I had the party invitation on my email and got the entry. It was too crowded, and finding her amidst it was a task. I somehow pledged to find her before midnight and hug her while entering into the new year. I did find her, but the situation turned out to be different. She was there with a guy whom she introduced as a friend, but I could notice he was more than that. He got uncomfortable seeing me, gave an excuse that they were alone, bumped into each other, and hence spent the evening together. I said, sure, then I'll leave you guys to it. The guy stopped me and said he was leaving and I should stay with Haley. She didn't seem excited that I came for her. I asked if there were other friends as well, and she said no. So she ditched all our friends and family to spend New Year's Eve alone. I wasn't a fool to believe it was a coincidence. At midnight, the guy showed up again to wish her, and the way her hand lingered on his arm just a little too long said everything. He was some rich businessman who clearly had everything I lacked at the moment: stability, money, success. When we came back home, I confronted her right away. She didn't even bother to deny it. Her reply was, "So what if I am? I have the right to decide for myself just the way you do." She had been sleeping with that guy for months and was waiting for an opportunity to tell me about it. That hit harder than anything. I wasn't even angry, just numb. I had given her the benefit of the doubt for so long. Thought she was just stressed, that maybe things would get better once my business took off. But she had already moved on, emotionally and physically. The marriage was over before I even realized it. I said, sure, you have the right to make a choice, and you have clearly made one, so let's stop pretending and end this. She was offended that I got to say this word first. She said, "You don't get to say that. I'm going to dump you right away. That guy is far more successful and established than you ever would be. I deserve no less." I don't remember it word by word, but she meant to say that she didn't want to cheat, but my life choices forced her to find a better partner for herself because she didn't deserve a broken, clueless man. She stuck around until I provided for her, and now, when I couldn't, she has a right to move to a better man. I filed for divorce and she gladly accepted it. She moved out within a week. No talks, no tears, just a quiet acceptance. We divided the assets without much struggle. She was too eager to leave, too happy to be with a fair partner, to be with a man with better judgment, more money, and success. It was very difficult for me to be abandoned when you're at your lowest. That's okay. After a week of initial heartbreak, I actually felt relieved. Cutting the cord at once was much better than living with a damaged one every day. I buried myself in my work, focused and relentless. 6 years later, my business is thriving. I have everything I once dreamed of, a company I built with my own hands. It's not huge, but something I can call my own. A new life, a new love. Not married yet, but maybe in the cards soon. Who knows? And then, last week, Haley texted me out of the blue, "Hey, how have you been?" Like nothing had ever happened. I ignored it. Then another message, and another. I kept ignoring them, but today she sent a long one. Apparently, I'm ungrateful. I should respect her and at least respond because she supported me for a year when I was jobless. She listed every little thing she ever did for me, every favor she now expects me to acknowledge. She commanded respect as my ex-wife as if I'm obligated to respond to her. I thought I had moved on. I really did. But my blood boiled when I read those words. The sheer audacity. I never felt the need to show off my success. She didn't exist for me, but after her entitled text, I do want to rub it in her face and show her what she lost, especially give her back the words she said while leaving me. I told my girlfriend about it, and she said something that stuck with me. "If this still bothers you so much, maybe you haven't completely moved on." That made me think. Have I? Or should I just be immune to whatever Haley says or does? Because right now, I don't feel immune. I feel pissed. I haven't responded to her. Neither do I plan to. Just wanted to put it here and check if anyone else has also gone through this ever before. It sounds like she was only willing to stick around when things were easy and comfortable, but the moment real effort and sacrifice were required, she bailed. She might have walked away thinking she was choosing the better option, but life has a funny way of proving people wrong. Now she's on the outside looking in, realizing too late that she bet against the wrong person. Update 1. I didn't respond to Haley's text. I had no reason to. She was nothing but a ghost from my past, but apparently my silence wasn't enough for an answer for her. After a week of texts and long emails, one day my receptionist buzzed me, "There's a woman named Haley wanting to meet me, but doesn't have an appointment and says she doesn't need one." She was still that entitled witch. She randomly showed up at my office thinking I was sitting here to welcome her. I told the receptionist to relay that I wasn't in today. I wasn't about to entertain whatever sob story she had. I knew it was a sob story because if she had been living the dream life she left me for, she wouldn't be here. She left after receiving the message. The next day she came back. I had instructed my receptionist that in case she showed up again, tell her I was away for a business trip and won't be back anytime soon. She did the same and Haley left. I thought it was over, but then 10 days later she showed up again, and this time she was there at the front desk before anyone arrived. I entered the office and saw her waiting in the lobby. I walked past her as if she was a ghost. She tried to follow me, but was stopped by the front desk. They informed her that I was busy and hence not entertaining any visitors. She told them she was not leaving without meeting me even if she had to sit here for the whole day. When I heard this, I told the security to let her sit there until her patience ran thin. She had that same entitled stubbornness, that same belief that she could dictate how things went. A woman who once held her head so high, who mocked me for not being successful enough, was now sitting at my company's reception, waiting for me whom she had abandoned. I thought she would leave after a while, but she didn't. The receptionist awkwardly informed me that when Haley was asked to leave, she screamed that she's your wife. I let out a bitter chuckle and said, she's just a wandering ghost from the past. In the evening, I was stepping outside for something and she caught me, came forward and loudly said, "Hey, why wouldn't they allow me inside? Don't they know I'm your wife?" I replied with a straight face, "No, you're not, and no one needs to know you here." She swallowed hard and requested for a moment in private. I hesitantly let her in. She stepped inside my cabin and came forward to hug me. I stepped back and gestured, "Don't." She got offended and snapped, "Why do you despise me so much? Why is there so much pride in talking to me and responding to my texts? I was your wife once. I deserve some respect." I had a long day and was in no mood for her BS. I was like, "Cut to the chase, what do you want?" She remained quiet for a moment and whispered that she messed up. I replied, "It's obvious and that's why you're here. Well, let me guess. The far more successful man wasn't as successful as you thought." She started sobbing and told me about her miserable life. Apparently the guy she clung on to was some rich brat, showering his father's money on desperate chicks like Haley. She left her job and they enjoyed life as if there was no tomorrow. They got married, traveled the world, and gave her the dream life. The problem was the guy refused to work and didn't contribute to the father's business, only wanted to reap the fruit. His elder brother was slogging his butt along with his father and despised him. At last his father gave away all his business and properties to his eldest son who was managing it all this while, and this guy just got away with a house and a small factory. He couldn't even run that factory and declared it bankrupt within a few years. He became nasty and abusive after all the money was gone, and one day he just abandoned her. Later she got to know that the house was also on mortgage, and since he couldn't pay the money back, the bank was going to seize it. She went to her in-laws for help, but they turned her away, saying they don't have anything to do with her or the guy. It was definitely surprising how everything turned out, but I wasn't shocked or sorry for her. Didn't she make her own bed? I asked her with an impassive face. "I still don't get it. What do you want from me? Why are you here?" She stared at me in disbelief. How could I be so indifferent to her misery? Then went on to say, "I left my job because of him. I thought I'd never need to work again. Now I have to feed myself, but the problem is I've been away from the industry for years. The technology has changed and I don't know how to catch up. I don't have money to level up. No one wants to hire someone who's been out of the game for this long. But you know me. You know what I'm capable of." I stopped her in between and blinked. "You want me to hire you?" She sighed. "I know I don't deserve it, but please give me a chance." I let out a humorous laugh and gave it back. "You sabotaged me when I wanted to build something of my own. You belittled me, resented me, and walked away when I was at my lowest. And now you want me to give you a shot? Sorry, I don't run a charity." She pleaded,
I don't even have a proper place to live. I share a tiny apartment with a stranger I found online. I sold most of my things just to survive. I don't have savings left. I eat cheap takeouts and instant noodles. I don't even have a car anymore. I had to sell it to pay rent. I never thought I'd end up like this. And I know it's all my fault. I was stupid. I see that now. I was blinded by money, by stability. But look at you. You did it. You proved me wrong, and I'm so proud of you. Leaving you was the worst mistake of my life, and I regret everything I did to you.
I intervened and asked her to stop her manipulation and firmly said that she was knocking on the wrong door and she ain't getting any help. She reached out for my hand, but I pulled away. She hesitantly whispered,
I was scared of my future. I made bad choices, but I know better now. We had something real. Can't we give second chance to each other?
I shook my head. No, we can't. And what we had was a transaction. You loved the life I gave you, not me. And I'm afraid I can't talk to you anymore. My girlfriend won't like it, so please excuse me. She looked confused and asked,
You have a girlfriend?
I smirked at her. I didn't need to, but I pulled out my picture with my girlfriend and rubbed it in her face. She saw and noticed that my girlfriend had a huge ring on her finger. She stammered,
But you never post with her. Is she real? I checked with our mutual friends and no one said you have one.
I replied, Yeah, because my girl doesn't need designer bags and champagne parties to be fulfilled. We keep our lives private and meaningful. She drives the tech and innovation in my company, and I can't say how proud I am. She's brilliant and kind, and most importantly, she doesn't need me to be rich to love me. She remained silent and tears rolled down her cheeks. For the first time, she looked truly broken. Until now, she was hopeful to win me over. She wiped a tear, then another, and whispered,
It's shattering. I thought I was trading up, but I threw away the best thing I ever had.
I took a deep breath and said, I think we're done here and you should leave. She hesitated for a second, maybe wanted to say something, but held back. I saw the regret in her eyes. Real regret. Not just because she was struggling, but because she had truly lost me. That night, I told my girlfriend everything. She asked me how I was feeling, and I was shocked at myself that I wasn't bitter or happy or sad. If you see it in real sense, this should have been a closure for me, but it didn't feel happy about her misery. I didn't feel anything at all. She was expecting some kind of emotion from you, even if it was hatred, because that would mean she still mattered. But she doesn't. She's just a ghost, like you said, and ghosts don't get second chances. Do you believe in second chances in relationships? Or are some betrayals unforgivable? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And thank you for joining us today on rSpace. Be sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on our next video. See you next time.